So I was so intrigued to watch this movie, and I wanted to see it so bad, even though I'm not really a fan of the director. Luc Besson is a really interesting person to me, and I admire his passion for certain projects. However, I usually don't like those projects. His last film, Lucy, was one of the worst movies I had seen in quite some time. I found it incredibly boring, and the editing was just terrible, and everything about it was just bleh. I know that everybody loves The Fifth Element. I don't love The Fifth Element. I think it's just very okay. It's got some elements that are cool and unique, but cool and unique elements do not necessarily make a good film. However, Valerian was kind of different. It looked really cool and unique and very original. And in a world of remakes and reboots, that's why I'm excited to see something like this.
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Valerian, trust me.
How much time left?
Your destiny is in your hands.
I taught him how to do that.
What's up guys, I'm Jacob Suggs and welcome back to another video. And today we're talking about Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, a film that Luc Besson has been trying to make into a film for years now. The graphic novels are apparently amazing and inspired so many things that I personally love, so I was excited to see this movie. However, this is one of the worst movies I've seen all year. It's atrocious. Now if you like this movie, good on ya, that's awesome, good for you. If you don't like this movie though, I can absolutely see why. I can't even tell you the plot of this movie. It's so convoluted and filled with subplots that don't even matter and so much crap going on that I can't even explain to you what the plot of the movie is off the top of my head. Like, it's about pearls that are very powerful or something like that. And the characters are so bland that I can't even give you 5 defining traits as to why these characters stand out, because they just don't. The acting in this movie is terrible. I've seen better acting in the Star Wars prequels than in this movie. And that's coming from somebody that likes the Star Wars prequels. I enjoy those movies. However, the acting in those movies isn't the best. And to be frankly honest with you, I'm not just saying this, I thought that some of the performances in this movie were actually worse than Hayden Christensen's performance in Episode 2 and some of the other acting in the Star Wars prequels. Jacob, why are you comparing it so much to Star Wars? Because if you didn't know, Valerian, the graphic novels, inspired the look of Star Wars and stuff like that. It inspired a lot of stuff that you probably love, and the stuff that I love too. Don't get me wrong, before I say this, I think that Dane DeHaan is a good actor. I think that he's delivered really great performances in the past, especially in Chronicle, a movie that I personally really loved. However, in this movie, it comes off really weird and bad because he can't make up his mind whether he wants to be a Han Solo, smooth-talking smuggler character, or a gruff, gritty, dystopian hero kind of figure. You can't really combine those two together, but they try to do that, and in return it just makes for a character that's kind of unlikable, really boring, has too many attributes to keep track of, and just someone that we don't care about. And this movie also does something with Cara Delevingne's character that I absolutely hate that movies do. Basically they say, oh, she's a strong female figure. She's sexualized to no end in this movie, and in fact, almost every woman in this film is very much sexualized. It's just really distracting because you have a sequence with Rihanna, which that was a weird choice anyway, but you have a scene like that to where it could look really cool visually and stand out. However, it's just so distracting because you're saying, hey, look at Rihanna, hey, look at Cara Delevingne, I mean, hey. You can't push that somebody is a strong female character and then over-sexualize them to no end. It counteracts what you're trying to say. If you don't believe me, the first shot that we are introduced to Cara Delevingne's character in this film is literally a close-up shot of her butt. Perhaps the biggest flaw with this movie are that the main two leads of this movie are just terrible horribly miscast. They're supposed to be older than they actually are, but they cast Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne because they're hip with the millennials, and that draws people into seats. Unfortunately, it didn't really fit the characters that they were trying to make in this movie, if you're asking me personally. I also want to say that Luc Besson, visually to me, is a very messy director. For every shot that he has that looks kind of pretty, he has a shot that looks really ugly, and visually this film was just a mess to me. Movies are half story and half visuals. You have to have both to make a solid film. However, what this movie does is it says, hey, look at the visuals, look at the environments, look at the vibrant colors. Isn't that distracting and isn't that pretty and cool? And yeah, it is, but it's like you have no story or logic to back up why we're there at that particular moment. So all you really have is just a somewhat pretty picture. And the VFX mostly sucked in this movie. Say what you will, and I get that this movie is going to have a lot of CGI based on the source material, but it's almost too much CGI. There's so many CGI things in this movie that it's almost distracting. It's really frustrating, and I kid you not, there's a scene with like this like weird bus thing that like flies around on like this tourist planet. It literally looked like something out of a Nicktoons movie to me. And that's really frustrating because, like I said, every visual that they have that's actually great is counteracted by a visual that sucks. Bad VFX will always be noticeable and usually take me out of the movie, unless your movie's actually genuinely great and I can overlook that. But it's 2017. We're living in a world where CGI is kind of the norm, and I don't hate CGI, but there is a thing as using too much of it, and whenever that's your entire canvas for your painting, it's just like, it's just really frustrating to me. Let's talk about this movie narratively, because this movie fails. It does the impossible. It fails before it even begins. There's so many plots in this movie that I can't tell you the main plot. It has something to do with these aliens and these magic pearls that are really powerful, but really that's all I know. And they try to shove an antagonist in the third act of the film that deals with something from the first act of the movie, but it just felt forced and rushed, and I didn't buy into it at all. The movie tries to have really fun, engaging action scenes. However, they try to top each sequence with another action scene, and after a while, it's like you're just putting action scenes in the movie for the sake of being action scenes. Can you stop and just have us, get some exposition or some time to breathe? And even when they try to give you time to breathe, they put in another action scene. There's a really dumb scene to where Cara Delevingne, however you say her name, she has to put like this jellyfish thing on the top of her head to find out where Dane DeHaan's character went, and it's just the dumbest thing I've seen. It's like an acid trip. You have to have a good script or your movie will fail. I feel like this script, written by Luc Besson, who clearly has a passion for this, unfortunately just fell really short, and I just wasn't a fan of this movie whatsoever. Oh, and not to mention that they try to force humor into some of the elements in this movie, whether it be with three little characters that I thought were terrible, and literally the Jar Jar Binkses of this movie, or what they try to do is they try to just say, hey, let's make a funny joke out of this serious situation, which takes all levity out of the situation, because you just made a joke about it. I mean, like, if you're making jokes about stuff, then who really cares? But the humor is very forceful, and it tries to push it on you, and in return, it just feels really artificial, and it doesn't feel natural. Humor needs to feel natural. A joke needs to fit into the scene, but the scene also has to fit into the joke. That's something that filmmakers seem to be forgetting. Overall, I thought this movie was frankly a disaster. I found it a boring, subplot-filled fever dream of a movie that looks pretty and then doesn't look pretty, and you're just gonna really forget it after you see this movie. It's a really forgettable, bland, generic, boring movie. It tries to be original, however the originality is just overshadowed by all this bad humor and a weak script and weak characters, and unfortunately, that just really bogs this movie down. It's a shame because I want to see more original films. However, films like this are the reasons why studios don't want to make original movies. And I'm glad that Luc Besson was able to release his passion project to the world, and I don't want to trash on it. I don't mean to trash on it. I think that it's a bad movie, personally, but if you like it, that's awesome. I'm glad that it reached you. This was not only one of the worst films I've seen all year, it was one of the most disappointing as well. So I'm going to give Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets a 2.5 out of 10. Pretty bad, I know. So that being said, have you seen Valerian? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I'm Frame by Frame. Remember the name. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Support me on Patreon. Link in the description down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.